Lenten Pilgrimage, Day 18. Almsgiving. My dear friends, almsgiving is one of the pillars of the Lenten period. And almsgiving is money or food given to the poor people. Almsgiving is a theme that runs all through the Bible and even in the Christian culture. In Leviticus 19, Moses instructed the people of Israel not to harvest everything from their shamba or their land. They were instructed to leave some of the food for the poor and the strangers, and especially the passers-by. Jesus, when he was launching his manifesto in Luke 4:18, he said that he has come to serve the poor. In the Luke chapter 12, verse 32 to 35, Jesus instructs his disciples to sell everything and give alms so that they can provide for the poor. And he said, by doing that, we put treasure in heaven that does not fail and where no thief can approach. So giving alms is also a way of keeping treasure for us in heaven. My dear friend, when we talk of treasure, we see the explanation of treasure that we keep by helping the poor in the story of Cornelius. He gave alms to the poor, and God dispatched angels from heaven who told Peter, "This man has a treasure in heaven." When we give alms, the treasure that we keep is not kept in this world, but is kept in heaven. So treasure are things that we keep for future, but the spiritual part of treasure is that it is kept in heaven. In the world, what we have is not treasure, is only riches or prosperity. My dear friends, in heaven, treasure is not tied on anything we do, but is tied on how much we help the poor. In the prophet Isaiah chapter 58 verse 6, he tells the people of Israel that they should choose to do good and to give alms. And it is not only to provide bread for those who are oppressed and shelter, but also to clothe those who are naked. So the secret of breaking your yoke that weighs you down is sharing food with the poor. Remember what happened to Dorcas. When she died, Peter was around the city, and the poor people called Peter, and they said, she was there for us. She made clothes for us. She clothed us. What can we do? And we see that God decided to bring her back. Why? She was not a very good choir member. We are not told. We are not told whether she was a good preacher. We are not told about her prayer life. But she was raised back to life because she understood that there is premium in the ministry to the poor people. Paul, the apostle of God, developed a theology of equity, and he was always there to admonish and tell his people that they need to share everything that they have. And he said that those who gather little have nothing to lack, because he told all people to sell what they have and share with each other. And that was a very practical ministry to the poor. He says in 2 Corinthians 9:8 that God is able to make grace abound towards you, that you always have sufficiency in all things, and that you may have abundance in every good work. Everyone who does something good, God has his way of recompensing. And when Paul was writing to Philemon, he said that he has collected a lot of support from Thessalonica and other people, And he always told people that our God shall always supply all what we need in his own riches. And the riches of God are not in heaven. The riches of God is everything that we have here on earth. My dear friends, the way God created human being, even from the beginning when he created human person and gave him to be on top of every creation, God destined that we should share all what we have in this world. But he gave some people to have more than others. And I believe that he did that so that the poor can be a lander for the rich to reach heaven. What am I saying? The poor have been kept in our communities and our societies so that we can use them, and by helping them, we are doing charitable work, and that will help us to reach heaven. In fact, it's a way of serving God through the poor. The way a human person is created is not created for himself. Man is a relational being. And since man is a relational being, we don't get satisfaction from giving to ourselves, but we get satisfaction from giving to the other. A question may be asked, does money bring happiness? I will say yes, but it is not about the life of debauchery and the life of spending the money on yourself. Money only has value and brings happiness when that money is used to help another person and give life to the other. One man had a lot of property, and he was always trying to use that property for himself. But he confessed that the moment he felt that he has really experienced happiness and true happiness is when he took part of his property to a children's home, and seeing those young ones eating and others enjoying the things that he brought to them, and some of them touching him and thanking him, that gave him a lot of happiness. So our happiness is in giving alms. By giving alms is giving to the other. Pope Francis, whom we call the Pope of the Poor, said, "A little bit of mercy makes the world less cold and more just." In his message on World Day of the Poor in the year 2022, Pope Francis said, "Where the poor are concerned, it is not talk that matters. What matters is rolling up our sleeves and putting our faith into practice through the direct involvement, one that cannot be delegated." He warns against laxity and inconsistent behavior towards the poor. He warns against indifference. Indifference, he calls it the sin of the modern person. Seeing somebody in problem and you don't move a hand or even a foot to assist that person. So Pope Francis says that giving is not even enough, because many people may be willing to give, but he says that people must be willing to touch poverty with their hands and hearts. In fact, he said that day that sometimes at confessional, after a person has confessed, he normally asks the penitents how have they been handling the poor, whether they have been giving to the poor. Mother Teresa, who is the saint of the poor, during Nobel Prize in 1979, she gave a story of a Hindu boy who was 4 years old. When the little boy heard that the children were in Mother Teresa's home have no sugar, he went home and told his parents that he is going to fast from sugar for 3 days. And after that, the young boy brought sugar to Mother Teresa. She said in her life that is one of the acts that really touched her, because the young man said, "I can enjoy this sugar, but I give it up for the sake of the children in Mother Teresa's home." A real sacrifice. That is almsgiving. That is the spirit of Lent. This young boy was not a Christian. He was a Hindu. Yet he sacrificed for the sake of these kids. Mother Teresa said, if you can't feed 100 people, than just feed one. My dear friends, as we go on with life, it is good to know that our life only becomes meaningful when it is of service to the other. Saint Gregory the Great said, when we attend to the needs of those who are in want, we give them what is theirs, not ours. More than performing works of mercy, we are paying a debt of justice. What Saint Gregory is saying in a nutshell is that when we help the poor, we should not see as if we are assisting this poor person, but actually we are assisting ourselves. It is us who derive graces and happiness by assisting the poor person. So at the end of the day, when we give alms, it is not the person who receives who benefits more, but the whole benefit goes to the giver. My dear friends, today as we go on with this Lenten journey, I want us to think about this topic of almsgiving. Let us try to deny ourselves something so that somebody can get some life. I have a personal experience to give. One time I was seated in a parish office, and a young man walked into my office, and he told me that he has dropped out of school, and he has more than a year since he left school, and he has been grazing in neighbors' cows and goats. And I could see the young man was very hopeful and said, he told me, Father, I've come here so that you can assist me. I looked at him and I had nothing to do, but I told him that we are going to pray over it. That gave me a challenge because this young man had a lot of future. He had scored very well in the primary and elementary education. When he went away, I sat down and went to a church and prayed, and then I said, this boy must go back to school. And that is when I started looking for a way of getting some alms from those who are able and channeling them to education of the young ones. And now as we talk, I have more than 10 to 15 students, young men and women, who have gone through education through my hand. And it is not because I have anything, but what I do, I connect them with my friends. Some take a student, others take two. And now some of them are even completing university, others are in university, and I know that is a change that we brought into that life. My dear friend, almsgiving does not help the person who is being helped, but it helps us. Through that, one man came to me and told me, the moment I started paying school fees for this young man, God opened more doors for me and my wife. Now we have more sources of income, and our resources are increasing. And the man believes it is because of the alms that they are giving back to the society. My dear friends, giving alms has some spiritual benefits. Benefit number one, when you give to the poor, it secures you and your family from getting into a similar situation. In fact, when you are giving to the poor, you are saying, my family and my generation should not go into this way. And that means you are securing them and saying, I'm giving so that I don't get my generation, my children, or the children of my children facing the kind of life. Number two, almsgiving brings happiness to the giver. And that is in Proverbs chapter 14:21. When you give, it boosts your mood and your self-esteem. In fact, the feel-good chemicals can reduce the amount of stress, anxiety, and pain that we experience. A study was done from Zurich University that those who spend money and resources or helping other people, they report high levels of happiness. Number three, when we give alms, we get protection from our enemies. And God has a way of rescuing us from our enemies. And this is what David believed in. When he was the king of Israel, he believed by helping people and by being there for them, God rescued him even from many of his enemies. My dear friend, number four, helping the poor brings healing for our sickness. In the book of 2 Kings chapter 4, a Shunammite woman helped Elijah. You remember that story? God gave the barren woman a son. And even when the son died, God restored the son back to life. Why? Because this Shunammite woman had given Elijah some food. It is an act, or it was an act of almsgiving. My dear friends, the church of God is called to give alms. Christians are called to give alms. That is the way we live our Christian life. In fact, if you ask me, I would say I will gauge the spirituality and the faith of a Christian by the way he or she is there to help the poor and the vulnerable in the society. Most of the religions that are derived from the Judaism have the almsgiving as part of their pillars. In the Muslim world, one of the pillars of Islam is that you must give alms to the poor. And that's why every Friday you see many poor people lining up outside the mosque and they get some rations of food. Christians, this Lenten period, what are we doing? Do we have a part of our resources given to the poor? Do we serve the poor, or we are there to do the other things? You know, tithing is different from almsgiving. Tithing is sometimes for the development of the church and for the budget of the church. But almsgiving is a way of giving the poor people. I always say the church is there for the vulnerable, and we can judge the success of any Christian institution by how it handles the poor people and the vulnerable in the society. Today, as we go on this Lenten period, make a resolution to donate for the cause of the poor. Today, let us talk to God and know that God is calling us. Listen to that voice of God calling you to donate to the cause of the poor. Thank you. May God bless you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.